In this video I'm going to give a basic overview of audio in Premiere. The first thing that I'd like to point out is that when you're viewing audio in Premiere, just like any other post-production software, you want to be able to see the waveform. Now, if you are dealing with a combination of video files and pure audio files, then they're going to appear slightly different when you load them up in the viewer here from the project pane. So a piece of video, when you double click on it, you can view it and you can play that clip here in the viewer, and you can do all of your in, your out points, etc. while looking at the video. If you want to view the audio, then you need to go up to the top right hand corner here and select audio waveform. So composite video and audio waveform are the two selections here that you're going to need to toggle between when you want to edit based on picture or sound. When I set it to audio waveform, I get my two waveforms here which allow me to see the audio. If I load up a pure audio clip such as this, it will just open it up as a waveform, and I won't be required to go in here and change that. You'll see that because it only has audio, all of the other video based selections are grayed out. So what I'm looking at here is a selection of clips. Now when we're dealing with audio in Premiere, we're going to be dealing with a combination of clips that are going to go onto our timeline, and they're going to go into tracks on our timeline. Now we can specify how these clips are going to look when we put them on the timeline. This I'll go with this crickets clip here. Now this is just a sound effect clip, and I can play that and you should hear some crickets playing away there. Now when I load that up, you'll see that it has two tracks. What you'll also see here in the audio info is a number of details: 48 kilohertz 16-bit stereo. The 48 kilohertz refers to the amount of samples per second, and the higher the amount of samples is going to amount to better quality audio. 16-bit refers to the amount of data that's used for each one of those samples. Again, the higher the number here will result in better quality or better fidelity audio. And stereo here tells me that it is a stereo file. So this may have been recorded with a stereo microphone out in nature, out in the jungle or somewhere, and the left and rightness of the recording has been preserved in the stereo track. Now if I control click on a Mac or right click on a PC and go up to modify audio channels, it allows me to specify how that is going to look when I bring it down on the timeline. Now, generally speaking, with stereo, you're going to leave this preset as use file, and you'll see here that both my left and my right channels here are going to go down to an audio 1 track, and you'll see here that that is also represented here by the number of audio tracks. One audio track, audio 1, and that track is then going to contain the left and right channels from my stereo clip. So I'll click OK. I haven't changed anything there, so when I bring my crickets file down into the timeline, you'll see that both the left and the right channels sit there in my audio 1. So that single track contains both my left and my right channels, and allows me to modify those certain aspects of those two channels simultaneously, such as the volume or the balance. Now if I were to get that same file, crickets AIF, and go up to modify audio channels and start playing around with how that clip is going to be modified and viewed on the timeline. So instead of use file, what I could do here is set it to mono, and I could say number of audio tracks, in this case use 2. Okay, and here my left track, or my left channel, excuse me, is going to go on to track 1, and my right channel is going to go into audio 2. So I'll click OK, and I can just click yes. It's just telling me that because I've modified this clip, which is already in use here, it's not going to affect the clip that I've already put on the timeline. So now I drag that down here, and you'll see that what I now have are two discrete mono channels based on my left and my right channels, which I can modify separately from each other. So whereas with the volume, for instance here, adjusting the volume on the track, in this case is going to adjust the volume of both of my channels. Because I have this in two tracks and the volume is track based, now when I adjust the volume at the top one there, you'll see that it only adjusts the volume on the top track. So to recap, I'm dealing with two different types of audio. Here I'm dealing with stereo, which is going to be the two channels are going to be kept together in a track, so I can modify their audio, or I can have what's called dual mono, which allows me to split my two channels that I used to have as a stereo file here, and adjust the levels and the panning left and right on these independently from each other. So you may have recorded an interview, for example, where you've got your interviewer and your interviewee each recorded onto two separate channels, and regardless of whether that was imported as stereo or two mono channels, you can now change them so that you have speaker 1, your interviewer, and speaker 2, your interviewee, on separate tracks. So you could eliminate one, you could change the volume on the other, you can do all of those discrete changes there. And the last thing